Oprah Winfrey recently revealed that going on Ozempic completely changed her perception of weight loss and the lifestyles led by people who are naturally thin. She used to believe, back when she was an ambassador for Weight Watchers, that staying thin required willpower. But now that she's on Ozempic, she believes willpower has nothing to do with avoiding obesity.
It's like she doesn't understand that the whole point of the drug is that it curbs the appetite.
Yes. Well, no, her point
I think
is
she
that
understands that even more.
thin people, in her idea of it, are just magically born without the desire to eat delicious food.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that she doesn't understand that the medication is doing for her what willpower does for somebody else. Okay.
Yes.
Growing up, very ADHD, I was prescribed Adderall from a young age. And believe it or not, once you go off it, you eat everything. And I do mean everything. And you realize that it was a medication doing that to you and not your natural ability to just live without food.
Well,
okay?
She previously denied using Ozempic to lose weight and slammed it as the easy way out to lose weight. She was actually saying you do need to do it the hard way and diet and exercise. But then people realized she was lying the entire time when she came clean in 2023, admitting that Ozempic is what helped her lose nearly 50 pounds following decades of yo-yo dieting.
Weight Watchers customers just betrayed all of them.
Sang the praises of Ozempic, saying the fact that there's a medically approved prescription for managing weight and staying healthier in my lifetime feels like relief, redemption, a gift, and not something to hide behind and once again be ridiculed for. She's done with the shaming. So, in a recent episode of her Oprah Winfrey podcast,
can you choose to be done with the shaming? Like,
I don't think she's done with
that's
shaming,
how that works.
Yeah. I don't think she's done with that.
Like, they're like, I just choose to. They just whisk. They just go like this.
Shamed for
it's
no
bizarre
more.
that she still is overweight. By the way, she didn't lose all of the extra weight, and she's still praising Ozempic for drastically improving her life. But while she was discussing the use, safety, and efficacy of GLP-1 drugs, meaning Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, all of these different labels, with a doctor on her podcast, she said it changed her entire way of thinking about how thin people approach food. She said, one of the things that I realized the very first time I took Ozempic was that all these years I thought thin people, those people, had more willpower.
Those people.
She believed they ate better foods. They were able to stick to it longer. They never had a potato chip. But she came to believe that willpower was, in fact, an absence of what she calls food noise.
Thank you, guys.
This is food noise. Don't eat the dogs. Don't eat the cats. Thank you. So, what Oprah seems to believe is that she and other fat people were born with intrusive hunger thoughts.
That's a big point of what all these articles keep talking about is intrusive hunger thoughts, which is like, I'm hungry, I want to eat, and not being able to say no to it.
And she believes that some people are just born with those and thin people are born without intrusive hunger thoughts, or food noise, as she calls it. She said, I realized the very first time I took Ozempic that they're not even thinking about it. They're eating when they're hungry and they're stopping when they're full. They're just magically born that way. They don't love food. If you have the sort of attitude towards food where you need it to fulfill you emotionally, that's probably a symptom of nurture rather than nature.
I think so too. And Oprah has always been like that. On her talk shows for decades, she's been, when she first started out, it was always like she would do the weight episode. They would always do a weight episode. And they would talk about dieting and how bad is your life because you're fat and all of this stuff. So this is I don't think she's done with the shaming for sure, because she's been ashamed her whole life of how she looks and her weight.
Yeah.
She is, yeah.
And that's why she was closely associated with Weight Watchers. She made millions of dollars being a
Yeah, she
celebrity
found a way to profit
ambassador
from
for
that.
them.
She found a way to profit from that shame.
Yeah.
you know
Look,
what,
good work if you can get it.
But
But,
hardly
like,
ever saw
essentially-
her talking about like, now I'm just going to work out. You hardly
Right.
ever saw that.
But like Weight Watchers is essentially what it is. It's like a system that people use to make calorie counting and calorie restriction simpler. Because
Yeah, you just eat like, don't they have like packaged
Yeah.
meals or whatever? It's one of those things.
And they make this whole process simpler for people who are unfamiliar with how to restrict their calories just on their own.
Yeah.
That's the point of it. It's not anything more complicated than that.
Yeah.
And she was praiseworthy of that method of losing weight for many years, decades, until she realized you could get the easy way out, and then took it and then lied about it and then came clean and expected people not to shame her for that.
And there is way more money to be made in the new method, unfortunately. Way more money to be
because
made.
you take it forever, right? Like you never
Forever.
stop taking it. But doesn't it have a lot of crazy side effects? Like you lose your hair, and
I've
you
heard
lose your
different
sex
things.
drive, and you lose like all kinds of things.
I've heard
Huge,
different
like,
things from different
digestive
people.
issues. We don't know the
there's,
long-term
like,
effects.
constipation is a thing
Yeah.
too. All the side effects, like anytime I see drugs and they're like, "This is magic and it will fix X problem,"
You
I'm
should
always
be
like,
you should
I
question
wonder
it.
what the side effects are. And then you read the side effects, you're like, no, nothing is worth all of these side
Well,
effects.
for instance, like on top of the actual side effects when you take Adderall, like I did growing up, for having the attention span of a gnat, like killing your appetite, and a lot of times balance issues sometimes if you're doing sports and stuff like that when you're first getting used to it. When you go off of it, you have to develop a whole new skill set on how to then focus and get your work done without it, because you've been using it as a crutch for however many years. Then you have to develop new techniques that require self-discipline, which is like, look, I can't just take meds now and just go to work, where it becomes very, very easy, because the second you take it,
Right.
it
All you want to
puts
do
you in the
is do
zone.
work. Yeah.
So then you have to develop the techniques to do it on your own. And that is a whole thing that makes life a lot harder when you get older. So you have to ask the question whether it's a good idea at all. And I do.
Well, Oprah, essentially Oprah became a shill for Big Pharma.
Yeah.
And that's what I find hypocritical about it. Especially it's hypocritical to use that product and lie about it. But then after you come clean to the public about what you've been doing to lose weight, you're then going to say everything you ever said before about weight loss was bullshit.
Yeah.
We have a 20 from Mary Perry, as someone who lost 50 pounds over 6 months through a medical, very low calorie keto program. It is 100% learning to say no to yourself and eating proper serving sizes.
There you go.
That's the hard truth that nobody wants to talk about. In fact, there were a lot of thin people who spoke out against Oprah after this podcast came out. One person said, "I beg to differ. My experience is that while I may be thin, I do think about food. I would love to snack all the time. I'm not immune to cravings. Thin people also think about food all the time, but they work hard to manage their physical and mental needs in a healthy way and not by taking medications."
I wonder how much it also affects your self-worth, because one of the greatest things about making changes to yourself, whether it's through diet and exercise or something like me having to learn how to focus and concentrate again without medicinal help, is that it affects your self-worth, and you feel better about yourself when you're able to do these things on your own. So if you don't have to do the work to get thin, that is through diet and exercise, you're not getting the endorphins that come from actually doing those things and seeing the results as that are a result of your own actions rather than a medication.
And you're not creating the new pathways in your brain that establish new habits.
There's a 20 there from DCNC.
Let me find that. DCNC said, "Fatties, nature versus nurture. There are fascinating studies where during blind taste tests, some people with specific genes prefer a more calorific meal, otherwise tastes the same. As with everything, some nature, some nurture." I'm not going to deny that there are genetic factors, of course, but what she's talking about, having intrusive thoughts about food constantly and needing to eat huge amounts of it when you're not in need of calories
It's weird.
can usually be a sign that you're fulfilling an emotional void.
It's weird because when I think of somebody like Oprah, I think of her like a media mogul who's always busy and always doing something. Like, I don't picture her sitting at home and watching TV at 7 at night.
I bet she does.
I
though.
picture her taking phone calls and Zoom meetings and being busy all the time.
Maybe she just has staff to do that part for her. She has a lot of free time on her
Or
hands.
she's like at every meeting, they're like they base it on whether Oprah's eating carrots or whether she's eating chips, and depending on the day,
they like
she's
prep
eating carrots.
the
Shit!
intern. They're like, listen, she's only had a salad today.
If she's eating carrots, be very
Warpath.
careful. No sudden movements.
Right.
You just have to like shield yourself if she starts throwing pens at you.
But there's another story here that was with this lady.
Yeah.
If
People
you
are
wanna
making, like, you may not be willing to sacrifice your personal comfort to lose weight, but this woman was willing to sacrifice her entire financial well-being in order to afford her Ozempic medication. She says that now she's working 3 jobs to pay for her weight loss shots. And now she's locked in for life. That's what Big Pharma wants. They want you locked in for life. You're a permanent customer. She said she's making money to afford her semaglutide. She works 3 jobs to afford these injectables. Your insurance plan must suck. And now she says, budgeted folks feigning for slenderizing shots have turned to the black market as well as social media, hoping to score discounted versions of Ozempic. But she says she took a slightly less questionable route. So now she, in May 2022, at a $500 per 3-month supply, she started and lost 64 pounds. And that was in a span of 8 months. It's a less pricey form of the meds that is not FDA approved. She said it's awesome. It was the first time that something actually worked. Following her drastic weight loss, she struggled with sagging skin and Ozempic butt.
What is Ozempic butt?
I guess it just means your butt deflates like a balloon. So to celebrate her success, she underwent an $18,000 makeover.
Yeah.
She went under surgery. She went under the knife to recover from the effect of losing the weight too fast with a tummy
cutting
tuck.
skin off and all of that stuff.
Tummy tuck and breast augmentation. So that's another expense that has added to her life.
That seems like another thing that's not worth it, is having like all of the parts of your body that you do like disappear.
She
Like
could
your
have
butt and your
avoided that if it
boobs.
were just a slower process
Right,
that
but it
required
went
more
super
self-denial.
fast.
You know?
Yeah.
She depleted her life savings for the operation, money that she'd spent years stashing as her rainy day fund. I had a lot more confidence after the surgery. It was the first time I wore a two-piece bathing suit since middle school. Finances have become tight for her and her family, making it difficult to purchase semaglutide. She's begun reducing her dosages, cutting back on the weekly injections to maintain rather than lose weight.
This is very much what happens when an addict starts using in excess to get high and then has to start cutting back just to maintain, which is like, yeah, you take a bunch all at once in abundance because it makes you feel a certain way. But as soon as you can't go any part of the day without it, you start rationing it out and it consumes all of your thoughts. It's all you think about. And I feel awful for her.
But here she talks about the same term, food noise. She said after a few months without the drugs, her food noise came back. Constant intrusive thoughts.
That must have been terrifying. I mean, I bet that was terrifying for her after not having it.
Oh, and all that money and everything.
Yeah.
I could see that.
She calls herself a recovering sugar addict.
This is why there's some things that I just don't keep in the house because I can like hear them calling out to me.
I mean, 110% the hardest thing for me to cut out is sugar. It is.
Yeah,
100.
I
I will admit that
Will
entirely.
not
And
eat my favorite ice cream.
From
I
what
haven't
I've
eaten
been
my
told-
Would you
favorite
call
ice
it a
cream in
real
years.
addiction, though?
Probably, yeah.
You need it to live.
Like
But not ice cream.
Well, yeah.
I mean, in a big part of it, like I said, I was at the doctor the other day. They're like, it's about the processed sugars, right? But the thing is, it's in so much stuff now. It's very hard to cut out of your diet. It's you get the headaches. It can be very, very, very much a struggle to do so. So I empathize with her. I do.
But it's just the same as what you said earlier. Like, the rates of recidivism, if you want to call it that, are extremely high after people go off of Ozempic, having accomplished the weight loss goal that they wanted in the first place. They didn't change any of their neural pathways. They didn't change their habits. Science, if you believe the science, says it only takes 21 days to change your habits.
So she was paying what? Did she say how much she was paying?
She said the surgery she got was close to $20,000.
But how much was the med? How much were the meds?
But she was spending $1,400 a month on her shots, eventually.
That is so much.
So-
Why was she taking that much? Was she taking like
I mean, she
more
may just
than-
had if she
I
had
don't
no
know.
insurance, it's just that expensive.
Yeah. It's insane. And that's why people are apparently turning to the black market. Resale value on Ozempic must be insane.
Like I'll
Oh
be,
my goodness.
like one of the hardest things I'd say, like as an addict in recovery, like if the idea was to cut out sugar completely, that would be very, very difficult. It really would. And in the easy availability of it makes that much harder too.
Well, but you need sugar also.
Yeah.
I mean, you need, like, that's part of what we need to survive. We need carbohydrates. You know, we need all that stuff.
The best I can say is like lately I've cut out like a lot of the needless. Like I get 2 burgers, but no bun or anything. It's just the patty. But I eat 2 of them rather than 1 because the eating 2 of the patty is going to keep you filled longer than eating 1 burger with
all the bun. Yeah.
and the excess stuff. You know, if it's got ketchup, there's sugar in that and all of those things. And that helps in a lot of ways. But for a lot of people, if they haven't put any thought into it, it can be very hard to understand where it's coming from. And if you go straight to the meds, that's a very dangerous path to go down.
It's just ironic that people see Ozempic or the other labels for it as the magic fix, and it's the easy way out. And then you can see that this woman is literally impoverishing herself and putting herself and her family under immense amounts of financial stress in order to afford it. Yeah. So it's really not the easy way out. The easy way out would have been just going through the traditional throes of calorie restriction. It is what it is. That's just the laws of thermodynamics, baby.
That does, yeah.
It's easy compared to what she's going through, at least.
Spending all that money working 3 jobs. It sounds awful.
Make dieting your side hustle.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.